Hi, this is Ast3rix and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be doing something I haven't done before. I'm going to be creating a track using nothing but samples. Yes, nothing but samples. So in doing so, I'm going to be utilizing Splice and Arcade. Both of which are sample libraries. But while I am utilizing those libraries, there's a couple of little tools that I'm going to need to be able to get me through this. So I wanted to talk about some fundamentals of music theory that have helped me tremendously in my journey. There are times where, and I know I see this all the time out on the YouTube universe or web, where folks they're doing great music. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of you guys out there doing fantastic stuff, amazing sounding music. But when you start listening to the core of their songs as a collective, because of their musical knowledge, they tend to stick to the same kinds of chord progression and keys. Well, the reason why is because we are creatures of habit, and I get stuck like that too. Sometimes when I'm stuck in a particular mode, the only way that I'm able to break out of that mode is by forcing myself into looking at the chord charts and experimenting with different keys so that I can break myself out of that mode. But then, you know what? What's really funny about creativity. Sometimes you have to work that mode out of yourself to get all the music that you could possibly think of out of yourself from that particular key before you can move into something else. So it's just really funny how creativity works in all of us individually. But for me, I really like experimenting with different keys. So I used a circle of fifths. And a lot of people are very confused by the circle of fifths. And it was really a mystery to me too, guys. Trust me, I really know. When you look at this thing, it's like looking at some kind of Greek mathematical chart. And trust me, it's not as complicated as it looks. It'll make a whole lot of sense once you actually just look at it for what it is and just go from there. So let's just do that. So the best way that I've found to look at it is this way, using both the sharp symbolism and the flat symbolism on it. So the thing that is of value to note about this is, let's start with C major, and that's what they do on all the charts. They always start with C major as a reference. So on the left side of C major, there's a flat. On the right side of C major, there's a sharp. So if you look at the numbering that they're using on this map, so C being 0, it goes 1 for G, 2 for D, 3 for A, 4 for E, 5 for B, 6 for F, which is also a B flat or a G flat. We'll get into that in a minute. And 7 for D flat and or C sharp. So just make note of that numerical sequence. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's going counterclockwise. So all the way around the clock, you can always get back to C. Except if you're going, the further you go on the left side of the clock, it's all flatted out. See how everything is all flatted out on that side? Versus everything on the right side is all sharped out. So that's the difference of the sides of the circle. So now let's look at minor keys. Minor keys, of course, when you listen to them from a musical perspective, they're more darker. And this is the other thing that has helped me musically, is music is about listening and hearing. You have to use your ears to be able to hear this stuff. So if you just play the chords or play the keys, you hear the tonality differences in them. So for C, let me see. Let me find some. Oh, you know what? Let me just use this tool. I wasn't prepared to do keyboarding, and I started thinking about it. Okay, so C, and this is a C, and that's a C chord. Okay, so there's a big difference between a C and an A minor. So if we go to A minor, so see how from a tonality difference, how different those sound from each other. So let's just stay with C sharp or C major for right now. So if I want to create a song, or if I'm working with a sample that's in C major, my options are going to be this. So on the left, I have an F, and then on the right is a G. Just remember that sequence: left, F, G, right. So those are the two options I have. Now, when I jump to either one, it will dramatically change what I have access to. So let's just start with C. And this thing is called the Harmony Navigator. And it is one of those songwriters tools that's available to allow people to be able to compose songs. And I don't use it that way. I use it strictly for chord references and for key references, because it helps me to be able to visually see what chord patterns are associated with the key that I want to play in, or the key that I'm trying to break myself out of. Excuse me. I'm trying to get over a cold, so I'm trying not to cough. And so excuse me, guys, if I take a break from once in a while, I'm trying to prevent myself from going into a coughing hacking mode. So I use this as a visual reference and a chord chart reference. And let me talk about chords. So looking at C, this is how it does the chords. So I'm sure you've seen these numerical values of the chord charts all the time too. So it's C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. What does that match up with? It matches up with the circle of fifths. So 1, 2, what's 3? A, 3, and then 4. What's 5? And 6, and 7. And 7 is always going to be diminished. And it's more of an exotic kind of chord. And there are some actual chords on here that are not numeric, and that's because they're more exotic type chords in the Lydonian scale. And the Lydonian scale is very, very odd. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. It's more of a jazz kind of scale. And I find that jazz chords and the jazz scale have harmonical musical values that are not normal. I mean, from a hearing perspective, they sound like keys that should not be played together. But in context of how you're playing them to other keys, it makes total sense. Jazz is one of those genres where it combines a lot of musical skill. So the people who have been playing in that style are very familiar with those kinds of harmonics from an ear perspective. So when they sit down and they start playing, that's what they play in. They only hear those harmonics in their head. So that's why they are really good at what they do. They can hear music in those nuances of harmonics in a way that we can't. Now, I've played some jazz in my life, but I am not a jazz master. And some of the harmonics are really, really rich, and the tonalities of them are really complex. And I don't have enough ear training to be able to decipher what I'm hearing. So it'll take you years to be able to decipher and be able to play some of those chord textures. If you're not a piano player and have been classically trained, and not even classically trained, if self-trained and spent enough time at the keys or whatever instrument that you've mastered to be able to understand the harmonics. So, but for us we got to have cheat codes. For us regular folks, we got to have cheat codes, and the circle of fifths is a good cheat code. So again, I use this as a reference. So like, say for instance, if I want to be in the C key of C, and I want to jump around to the G, using this chord chart, or using the chart, the first note that you play, and it looks like I've got my colorings done a little weird. Okay, let me go there. Okay. All right. So this program allows you to be able to add the types of nuances that you want to play with from a color perspective. So continuation means what note values or chord values end up in the next set of chords that you want to play. So every time you play a chord, it will the lighter colors show you like the next recommended chord value to play in. But sometimes I don't like using that in this program. I like just using like the scale membership, so that I can kind of see what's in that scale. So for instance, if I jump that, again, use G to jump to, I know that I have that A minor 7 is a good value. Major 7, C major 7 is a good value. And E major 7 is a value, and this diminished chord, which of course the sounds, see how that sounds? It's just really ugly. It's ugly, but it's in a good way. Contextually, again, you could use those chords. It just has to be played in a really specific way to get them to sound good. So back to G. So that's how I use this, and that's how you can use it too. But how's that work with samples? So let's do this. All right, so I've got my Splice account rocked up here. All right, let me see here. What am I doing? I think I want to start here, and I'm just starting out the gate. These are some of the recently added junk that I've been messing with. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Let's do trap synths. And I'm not going to pick a key. I'm just going to kind of go down the list and see what I find that sounds good. Okay, that's different. Oh, we're going to have to mess with that. Okay, so let's mess with that one. All right, so that one is in D minor. So we're going to drag that over into Ableton. We're going to speed it up some. I'm going to go to 140 there. Okay, so, all right, now that we're in D minor, we need to look at the chord chart. Okie dokie, what do I got to work with here? So I have an F major 7 I can work with. I can mess with A minor 7. I can mess with a C7. Let me see, and then I can go exotic and do a G minor 7. Oh, that's funky. Oh, that's a good key. So I'm gonna look for something in the G minor 7th range. Let me see. So they even give you tools to be able to look up stuff. So I want to do I want to find stuff that's in minor key, and I want it to be in a G minor. All right, let me see what I can find here. Okay, I think we have a match. That's funky. Okay, we are off on a good start. Okay, so again, what I did was the very first sample right here. And, you know, the hard thing about this whole video is that being able to utilize all the screen space to be able to see stuff. So this is in D minor, the very first sound that we selected, and the next sound that I picked, which is in that same range, tonal range. I went from a D minor to a G minor, So again, there's you don't have to, let me explain this. Okay, so I went from a D minor to a G minor. And again, if you're looking at the chart from left to right, so starting here was my first point. On the right side is going to be an A, and then you're going to count around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these are the keys that I can play in that will keep me in the key that I'm in. So that's the kind of thinking that you need to do when you're looking at the chord chart. And of course, sometimes you need to look at the keys too, because hey, there's only 12 notes on the keyboard. There's not like all these different crazy keys. The black keys they serve two purposes. There's sharps and flats. Sharps going up the scale. They're flats going down the scale. So up the scale, they're sharped. Down the scale, they're flatted. That's how it works. So that's how you know what to play. So if you're playing this on the keyboard and you're trying to figure out, okay, is it a sharp or a flat? And if you're looking at sheet music too, you're trying to figure out if the note is sharp or flatted. It means, is it going up the scale or is it going down the scale? That's the difference. So again, this is my cheat sheet, and it could be your cheat sheet too, and it'll make your life a whole lot easier. Versus trying to beat your brains, trying to harmonically listen to samples and try to figure out what key to play in. That is so hard to do. And you can spend hours on, you may have like, and also this is what I find too, it really messes up with your creative thinking process. When you hear something in your head and you just don't know how to do it, you don't know how to create it. And you try and you try and you try, but no matter what happens, it doesn't work the way that you want to, because you can't hear the harmonics that are associated with the key that you're playing in. You don't have to do that. You could easily just find the root note of the sample that you've pulled and work with the circle of fifths, and then just you'll break yourself out of it. It'll make your life so much easier. Okay, so moving forward with building my song out of samples. So I've got a really good start. I've got this this sound. Okay, I need a pad in there. So let me go back to Splice and let me see if I can find pads. And do I want to keep my pads in G minor? Okay, let's see. Let's go back to D minor. So I can do an E minor. Oh, that's interesting. Diminished ones are hard to do. See here. Okay, let me see if I can find an F. Let's see, F major. And I'm doing this from a harmonic perspective for my pads. I don't want them to be the same key as the other ones. Strings, the volume on them is like really low. I'm gonna have to do something to raise the volume. Maybe throw. Let's see, what can I do to raise the volume without damaging it?